Hello, people of YouTube, and more importantly, the Mass Effect fans, which should be watching this. And if you're not, well, you're just here wasting your time, and I congratulate you on that. In this video, as no doubt the title up there and the description down there will say, this video will contain spoilers, but more importantly, I'm going to be discussing my thoughts on the indoctrination theory and how it actually works. Okay, and to start this, I am going to focus on the child, as the whole indoctrination theory centers around this kid that's in the game. Now, throughout the course of the Mass Effect series, Commander Shepard keeps running into pieces of Reaper tech over and over and over again. And it's just silly to think that indoctrination has not started to weigh on his mind, if not just a little bit, because every single person who has ever been around any piece of Reaper tech, they all get indoctrinated. It's all at different speeds, but it happens. And Shepard's been around a lot of Reaper tech, and to just say that he couldn't be indoctrinated is just silly. He's human after all. I mean, he's the pinnacle of and representative hero of humanity, but he's still a human. And so he keeps running into all this stuff. So by the time we reach Mass Effect 3, indoctrination has already started to affect has already started to affect Shepard's mind, and it started to weigh on him. And for the course of my videos, I probably will refer to Commander Shepard as a man, because I play as a male Shepard myself. Anyway, it started to weigh on his mind, even though he doesn't know it. It's just the stress of countless battle after countless battle has started to weigh on him. I mean, by the time we reach Mass Effect 3, he's already saved the galaxy twice. I mean, he hasn't just saved a planet or a nation. I mean, he's saved the entire galaxy 2 times already. And that in itself is enough to weigh on even the strongest person's mind. Anyway, so it shows him overlooking out on this balcony, and you see this child who's just playing out there with a little Alliance fighter jet. And you see this is it bring a chuckle to himself. Ever since I personally played the Mass Effect 3 demo back when it was released, and played through the starting part of the game, something just caught me off about this child. Something just seems strange about this kid. In the first introduction of the child, you don't really think anything of it. Hey, there's a kid playing on a balcony. But as anybody who knows story-wise, you usually don't throw in stuff unless it means something. So the camera specifically shows this child playing on this balcony, and Shepard's reaction to it, which was a little friendly chuckle. And then we go on to the next stuff, and then Earth is invaded shortly after. And then, as the next time you see the child, a lot of people miss this second thing. A lot of people think the next time you see the child is inside the vent. There's actually one time that you can catch you before that. And that's as you're reaching the small overpass bridge thing where Anderson tells you to shoot the husks that are climbing the wall, as that part of the tutorial. Before you reach that, if you, and please forgive my voice, it's starting to go out on me. As soon as you reach that, if you look over to the side, and I've personally missed this and had to see it in a YouTube video myself, if you look over to the side, on the balcony where you're about to go, and have to do the melee moves, and where the game tells you to use the button to do melee attacks, because your guns run out of ammo, in that area, if you look down there before you even reach the bridge to shoot the husks, you'll see the child run into the building that has the boarded up windows, or what to me looked like a building with boarded up windows. You see the child run in there. Okay. And then you go down there and you do your melee attacks, and then you do your melee move to the last one that climbs up the side of the building. This sets up for a Reaper to fire a laser blast at this building. If the child was real, and he's run into this room, which you can see, and I am paraphrasing, and I'm taking this from another YouTube video, and it's bound to happen because there's so many of these video rants out there that we're all going to overlap. But you see this child run into this room, and then this laser hits it. This laser hits this room, and pretty much, and please forgive the trains, and pretty much incinerates everything inside this room and shoots a flame about 20 feet out the window. So anything that was in that room has been incinerated and turned to ash. Even if it was the same child, and he ran in there and he scurried up the vent, he would have had a fireball chase after him up the vent, and it would have turned him to ash or severely burned the child. Yet we go in there and we open the door, get Anderson to go through it, and then we hear a noise. Shepard hears a sound, and he goes over to the vent and he sees this kid cowering in there at the back of it. And then it doesn't matter what choice you make, you can't touch this child. You can't grab the child and pull him out. There's no cue that makes you physically notice that this child is real, or accept that the child is real. You see the child, you think the child's real, he looks real, he sounds real, but then whenever Anderson comes back and he's like, "Yo, Shepard, what are you doing? Why are you wasting time looking in a vent?" Anderson clearly has not seen this child and has not overheard the conversation between Shepard and the child. And as soon as Anderson interrupts you, we hear that infamous Reaper growl come out, because Anderson has interrupted the indoctrination process, because I believe that this child is a manifestation of the Reapers. I don't know if I've already stated that in this video, but I don't believe that kid is real. Alright, and so then we get off Earth, then we get to the end of the level, and out of nowhere, this little kid pops up. Now, if you remember, when we first run into that child, we're on something like the 20th floor, or somewhere around there. That might be overstating it, but we're way up in a skyscraper. And then the Alliance Dreadnought gets destroyed, the shockwave comes out, and the piece of the building we were standing on collapses, and we slide down it all the way down to the ground level. Well, this kid's still up there, supposedly up in the vent. We reach the end. This child has made it all the way down there in the time it took us as well, through a different route. Has made it all the way down there, and is just standing there. And the video sequence goes as if the Reaper is specifically looking at this child, specifically targeting this child. The video is rendered in such a way that it makes it look that way. So then the kid runs over to the evac shuttle in an open little space, which the evac shuttle has to be full of what looks like 20 civilians and a few Alliance soldiers. And I don't know about you, but if I ever see a small child during an evacuation time trying to scurry up onto a platform that's about as tall as he is, I'm going to reach down, grab the back of the child's clothing, and pull him up into the vehicle so that we can leave faster, instead of just letting the child do it on his own and then pounding on a door saying, "Okay, you're good to take off." I think that was just sheer coincidence, and it was just the Reapers projecting an hallucination into Shepard's mind. And then because in Shepard's mind the child was on those transport shuttles that I think they called it the Destroyer Reapers, the smaller ones. They go and he deliberately fires a laser blast at these two evac shuttles and kills everybody on board. Though the child's not real, so the child did not die, but in Shepard's mind the child did. Following this, I'm sorry, my nose is bothering me. following this, Shepherd starts to have these nightmares. First time we've ever been in Shepherd's dreams. Alright, the dreams take place in the woods with a few park benches. And the child is running away from you. And you're in slow motion, wearing your armor, and you chase after this child in slow motion as it's running frantically away from you, forcing you to chase it. So a few people have made videos commenting that this is Shepherd's subconscious trying to warn him that following this child will lead to his death. Now that gets a little more in depth than I'd like to go, but I can accept it, and it kind of makes sense because when you finally reach the child just stares up at you in the nightmare, and then he bursts into flames and gets burned alive. And this causes Shepherd just to get filled with horror and agony, I guess you could put it. And then he wakes up from his nightmares. Yeah, that's dream 1. In dream 2, we start to see these black, oily manifestation shadows that appear to be, if you take your time in the dream sequence, they appear to be drawn towards the child, and they just follow the child, and they go after it, and you start to hear the whispers in Shepherd's mind of the people that he's lost throughout his journey, even if it's just a few people, like the one person on Vermeer, and I think you have your second dream after you finish Tuchanka, in which case you either lose, from what I hear, you either lose Rex or Reeve, and Morden, and you might lose what's her name, Brachia or Eve, I think, yeah, that was her name, we'll just call her Eve for this, and you lose somebody. So I'm guessing they'll have some audio. And me, because I play straight Paragon as good as I can go, for me it was just Morden. So you start to hear comments from Morden, and you start to hear voices from Caden and just other people that you've lost. And then in this one you keep coming after the child, but now there's these smoky specter shadows there, and not specters as the Spectral Tactics and Reconnaissance Division that Shepherd's part of. I mean specters as in ghosts. But you just see these shadowy, oily figures coming up to you, and that brings us back to, in the first game, whenever you talk to the Rachni Queen, she says that oily songs of shadow clouded her people's mind and forced them to go insane. So that's a hint there. And then we come up to Shepherd has his third dream. And this is the one that confuses me. I didn't quite understand this one at all. You're still chasing after the child. The whispers get a lot heavier. The shadows have like doubled in number, I believe, from seeing that sequence. And you're still chasing the child, and then at the very end of it, the child runs into your arms, into a projection of yourself's arms. And for me, that scene would have made a lot more sense if it had been something like that was the Vermeer survivor there who hugged the child, and then they burst into flames, and it would represent people that you've lost, and that you just weren't able to save, such as the person that you left with the nuclear bomb on Vermeer, and this child who got blown up in a shuttle. However, it didn't do that. It has a projection of Shepherd there, hugging the child, and then they look back at you and they burst into flames. Now I've heard an explanation of this, which kind of makes that make sense. And they said that this whole dream sequence has been your subconscious trying to warn you, and this last one is the last-ditch effort of your subconscious trying to warn you and scream out at you that if you personally follow this child, it will lead to your destruction. It will lead to your death. That's why it shows it burning up. That's why it shows Shepherd burning in flames. That it will lead to his end. It will lead to his destruction. Okay. So then we go through and we reach the laser beam conduit, where everybody says the indoctrination hallucination starts. Harbinger drops down, hits you with the laser, and then he just gets up and leaves. Doesn't even make sure that you're turned to ash. He just purposely gets up and leaves. At this part where it goes into this, people compare the dream sequences and this sequence together, because in the dream sequences you're moving very slow. You're moving in slow motion, and everything's kind of blurred around the edges of the screen. And the rules of reality do not apply. Over the radio chatter, we hear that everybody has been completely wiped out. Yet clearly, Shepard's up and moving around, and so are two Marines for a little bit before they collapse. They may have died, they may have just passed out, I'm not sure. Most people believe this is a dream sequence. Additionally to that, while you're running towards this gate, you don't see any plant life anywhere on your charge towards this laser. And I've played this sequence again, and this is absolutely right. Whenever you're there and you have your tattered up armor and your infinite ammo magic pistol, if you turn around, you'll start to notice that there's some burn up shrubbery and there's a burn up tree off to the side that look just like the foliage you saw in your dream. And some people have said that this is your mind trying to tell you that this is not real. It's trying to give you a mental cue for you to interpret that this is not real. And you go forward and you go up into the beam. You reach up into this area, and Anderson says that he came in after you as soon as you get up there through your comm radio, which, I mean, his armor's busted completely to hell. So, as one person has pointed out in another video, how would his radio even still work with the condition that his armor's currently in? But let's just throw that off to the side and say it does. So it works for storytelling purposes. And Anderson says that he got there before you. Or, I mean, he got there after you, and he's heading down the hallways. And then as you're going down, you see all this blood and rage and carnage and stuff. And I think this might have just been, it's the Reaper's thing trying to just push you forward to get you to leave this area. You don't want to stay in this gruesome, nasty hallway. Yet, additionally, another point to point out is that during this whole time, you still have your gun and you can still fire it with its infinite ammo. Yet the two keepers that are in this hallway that are ripping the human bodies apart, at least that looks like what they're doing, if you fire at them, nothing happens. You can't interact with them at all. Then you hear Anderson say that a wall just moved and that this whole place is changing itself, and then he says that the place, to him, reminds him of your descriptions of the collector base with all the honeycomb stuff. Yet, as you go forward, I never saw any architecture that reminded me of the honeycomb structures of the Prothean collectors. And we go forward, and we reach this one place where stuff moves, and we see these slats that just go, and they just drop, and they fluctuate. And if anybody has played the Layer of the Shadow Broker DLC, you'll notice that during, I think it's during 2 sections, or it may have just been during 1 section, while you're coming along the outside of the ship, there's one section where you go inside of it, and then you eventually come back outside, but while you're inside, you see all these, I think they're hexagon plates that are like absorbing lightning or something, and they come down and they do this little shockwave wave thing. These plates look the exact same, which means it could be that your mind is extrapolating stuff and throwing it in there, or it could just have been BioWare saying, hey, these look cool, we want to use them again. Either or. For that part. Then we get up to the end, and somehow Anderson has beat us to the console. He said that he was behind us, yet somehow he got in front of us. That in itself doesn't make sense, but Shepard still accepts it. Doesn't say how did you beat me here. He just accepts it. At this part, we see Anderson back away from the console in a zombie-like movement because apparently he's supposed to be being indoctrinated and controlled by the elusive man who comes out. But that in itself doesn't make any sense because Anderson really hasn't been around any Reaper tech. Not that I know of. You can feel free to correct me on that, but I don't think he has been. So that part is strange. And in this part of the conversation, other people have stated that in this indoctrination, in this part of the indoctrination, that Anderson represents Shepard's willpower to just resist. That's what Anderson represents. And the elusive man represents the Reaper's indoctrination, trying to take hold over Commander Shepard. So, so during this whole thing, Anderson and the elusive man are not real. They're not really there. It's just your mind embodying indoctrination and your willpower in physical forms that your mind can interpret. So, the indoctrination is trying to take hold of you as hard as it can. And it even forces you to shoot Anderson or shoot your own willpower to kill it. Because if it kills your willpower, you're no longer going to be resistant and it'll take control of you. And we also see these oily lines coming in on the side of the player's screen, which goes back to the Rachni warning or whatnot that she told us, the oily images of shadow that blurred the song of her people. So that's another indication that this is not real, this is a dream, this is indoctrination, and you need to fight it. So Shepard can resist, and which you should. You resist it, and you end up telling the indoctrination to go screw itself, and you can go renegade, and you can shoot it, or you can let the indoctrination learn that it's not going to be able to defeat you this way, and so it tries a different plan, and it executes itself with a shot to its head, which is eerily reminiscent of what we saw Saren do back in Mass Effect 1. If you coaxed him so you wouldn't have to fight him a second time, if you made him realize that he was indoctrinated, he would shoot himself in the head. It's the exact same sequence. That should be something that screams to people that this is extrapolating stuff from Shepard's memories and turning it into a physical environment. So now it's gone. And then Hackett comes over the radio. It says we've installed the Crucible, but it's not doing anything. It's here, but it's not doing anything. So there must be something on your end. But I got a little ahead of myself. Before that, just right before that, we have a conversation with Anderson, or your willpower. And in this conversation, your willpower is there, and it says that it's proud of you. You did it. You beat the indoctrination. Your subconscious is proud of you. And so then it dies. When it dies, it fuses back together with the Shepard that's in this dream. That's why whenever Shepard looks down, and the camera makes a point to look down to see that Shepard pulls up his hand and it's covered in blood from a bullet wound in his left abdomen. This is the same place where Shepard just shot Anderson. So this is telling players that you injured your own willpower, and now it's a part of you again. And that's why you have the injury and why you're covered in blood. He wasn't hurting before, he was just covered in blood. So now your willpower is gone because it has fused back together with your essence, in a sense. And you go over, and Hackett's come over, said there's nothing to do, and this is just the Reapers trying their last-ditch effort to get you. They've tried as hard as they can to indoctrinate you, to slow you down, to stop you, and they just can't. So they try this last thing, where you pass out. They force you to pass out. And then the sequence, it separates the player and Shepard's characters. Because Shepard doesn't see himself go up on that elevator. We just do. He gets lifted into heaven, as it's made to look, much like the sequence from the last Matrix film. And he goes up there, and then we're introduced into the child again, which makes more sense, which kind of makes sense because the child was never real. It was the Reaper's avatar into Shepard's mind to try to take control of him and try to make him see things their way. In all forms of indoctrination, the Reapers make what they want to happen seem like it is the right course of action. We see this with what happened with Saren. Saren wholeheartedly believed that what he was doing was the right thing to do. Even though it meant the death of so many people, he believed it was the right thing to do. That's what made him such a great character. He didn't think he was doing anything wrong. He thought he was doing what he had to do for people to survive because the Reapers had indoctrinated him. And then the Elusive Man, he thought the same way. He thought that controlling the Reapers was the right thing to do because they had told him that that was the right thing to do. They had influenced his mind. They had made all this infighting of making humans fight humans. That's how they work. They make you think you're doing the right thing whenever you're not. You're just helping them. So we get up to the end with the three choices. And this is where the indoctrination theory really takes its hold. This is the last thing the Reapers are doing. They don't allow you to have any argument whatsoever. They just present something to you in kind of a one-sided fist fight. The first thing they introduce to you is that you can destroy them. And they make this seem completely unpleasant as everybody's business because they tell you that if you go the destruction route, for that to work, all synthetic life must be eradicated. And if you play the good guy route, this means that you've developed a good friendship with Edie, who is an artificial intelligence and a synthetic life form, and more than likely you've brought self-awareness to the entire race of the Geth. So to get rid of the Reapers, we have to be a dick and commit mass genocide on the Geth's race and kill our personal friend of Edie. So that doesn't sound like a very good option. Additionally, the kid says that the mass relays will be destroyed. So that really doesn't sound like a good option. We're like, okay, what else is there? So, and also that option is represented by Anderson, the premier paragon of the entire series, and it's color-coded to be a renegade action. It's like, this is evil, but it's what the good guy wanted. So that's your mind kind of screaming at you that this is what you should do, the destruction route. Even though they're making it seem so bad. It's not bad, and I'll touch on that in a second. Then they go over and they color-code things a little nicer. You come over to the blue one, which is the control. I don't really see a paragon taking control like a dictator. It doesn't sound like a good option. But that's how they paint it. And they show that this is what the Elusive Man wanted. So that this entire game, when you've been fighting the Elusive Man, they're saying, oh, he was right. He was doing the right thing. He just couldn't do it because we controlled him. Yeah. So now we want you to do it because we don't control you. Hint, hint. And then if you don't do that one, we give you another option, which is all kittens and rainbows, which is synthesis. Everybody gets to live. We just fuse their DNA together, and we kill you. Alright. So, and somebody has slowed down the videos and shown us that if you go either the control route or you go the synthesis route, the camera looks back at the child blue hologram thing. It looks back at it and you can sort of see a smile on its face, like, haha, we tricked your ass, we win. However, and then additionally, whenever you jump into it, you get turned into a piece of burnt charcoal, and if you zoom in, or I know there's one video out there, if you zoom in on it, you can see it goes up to Shepard's eyes, and then it shows that Shepard, during this sequence, has the exact same eyes as the Elusive Man. Now this could partly be in tune to the fact that he does have cybernetic eyes, and that if you go a full renegade path, his eyes glow red, and it's the same pattern. Or it could be that the Reapers finally succeeded, and Shepard became fully indoctrinated. And then they're just showing this whole vision in his mind of good things to come, and hey, humanity lives, when that's not really what happens. We're just placating your consciousness now because you're our bitch now. But if you go the correct choice, which this will be the correct choice for any future DLC, which is you go the destruction route. You throw caution to the wind, you follow your mission, and do what your subconscious has been telling you. And that is to destroy the Reapers, get rid of these assholes. So you go over and you start shooting it. Almost immediately as you start shooting it, the child disappears. As soon as the child vanishes from being angry and whatnot, as soon as this happens, miraculously Shepard's limp disappears. He gains all of his strength back because he's fighting against the Reapers. He's chosen the right choice, even though it's painted as the renegade option. It actually is the Paragon option. It's just clouded in your mind because they're trying to indoctrinate the player playing the game. You fight against the Reapers, you break their control, a wave goes out and it destroys everything. Everything that happens after that, I truly believe it's just a tacked on ending so that they could finish the game and say, oh, here's the credits, hurrah. Truth be told, that's not what happens. If you have the 5,000 EMS or 4,000 EMS, you can do this with either. I don't know why people say you got to have the max. You don't. And I'll cover that right now. If you have 4,000 EMS and you go into the final sequence, to get the final ending, all you have to do is, in the 4,000 one, you must have done a full Paragon or a full Renegade interrupt with every conversation with Elusive Man. That way, Anderson will survive, and you can have your conversation. And if Anderson survives, that means that after this, you'll survive too. If you have 5,000, that means you can be a little sloppy, and Anderson's character in the final sequence can get killed, and you can still survive. That's all that means. So I don't know why everybody's saying you must have 5,000, you must have 5,000, because it's simply not true. You can do it with 4, you just have to be cautious about your conversations. Now back to what I was saying, okay? You choose Renegade, you gain all your strength back, the kid runs away because now he's pissed. They weren't able to indoctrinate you, which I think this probably makes you the first person in the history of everything, of every cycle there's ever been. You are the first being to resist and to fight indoctrination and not to let it take control of you. And this just infuriates the Reapers. So he just leaves because he's got to do something else now because he cannot control you. And right now, they don't want to admit it, but their ass is getting kicked up in space. We're blowing them to hell. They might be slightly winning, but we are giving them a fight and a run for their money because we have the entire galactic fleet, everybody united. And we're just blasting Reaper after Reaper. And every time we blow up a Reaper, their numbers become weaker. And we can just move over to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, until they're completely gone. But it comes up to the next sequence. And it shows that the Citadel gets destroyed. But then it shows this bonus sequence, where we're going along in this pile of rubble. This pile of concrete and rebar. The Citadel wasn't made out of concrete and rebar, and even if it was, there's no way that Commander Shepard would survive, one, an explosion of everything there. That would have just completely turned into ash. Two, he wouldn't have survived re-entry into the Earth, especially since his armor was already damaged to hell. The only way that he survived, or his body partially stayed in contact at the beginning, in the prologue to Mass Effect 2, was because he had his full suit of armor and he had his shields up. It still killed him and he still got severely burned, and if you remember that opening little load screen, pretty much every bone in his body was destroyed. But that's aside the point. He didn't survive re-entry. He wasn't even on the Citadel. This whole sequence has been taking place inside of his mind. It was a manifestation of something that he could understand, taking bits and pieces from his memories. From his memories to create an environment where the Reapers were trying to take control of him. And then he wakes up on Earth, and he's probably still in front of that laser beam. And we haven't even gone up to the Citadel yet. Now, what I imagine happening is that Commander Shepard in the future DLC, if it does happen, which I pray it does, is that Commander Shepard's going to get up. He's going to go back, he's going to get up into the Citadel, and stuff is going to kind of happen the same way it does. But whenever we get up there, I'm about to grab something. Whenever we get up there and we reach the elusive man, this is where things are going to differ. Now, the Mass Effect art book, and this is the tinier one because the bigger one I own is a little hard to hold. In the Mass Effect art book, it clearly shows, and I don't know why it would do this. Why would BioWare even include this in the art book? And this is big spoilers for anybody who doesn't want to see it. Is that on the elusive man's page, they have this picture right here. So I want to make sure you can see that, and I hope that comes through well. They have this picture right here on the elusive man's page. And they say that this is one of the original pieces of concept art of how they envisioned the elusive man looking. It's like this. They wanted him to look like this whenever he got fully Reaperized. And that this was going to be the final boss of Mass Effect 3, but in the end they scrapped their plans and went with something else. Why would they even include this in the art book if it was just a piece of concept and never really came to fruition? I mean, this is it. We got the elusive man over here being indoctrinated, and we got this. We have no pictures of his actual face. In this book, they came with the game. That just strikes me as a little odd, and I think that this paragraph over here is a bunch of PR BS. And just that. What I truly believe is that we're going to get up into that thing in future DLC, and we actually are going to fight that version of the elusive man. We're going to see him, he's going to come out, and then there will probably be some Incredible Hulk type of cutscene where his body just rips itself apart, and he morphs just like Saren did in the final boss fight for 1, which was, I for one loved that boss fight in Mass Effect 1, where Saren pretty much turned into Spider-Man with a cannon in his face. That fight was amazing. But we'll probably fight that, or I hope we get to fight that, because that would look awesome as a 3D model. I'd love to see that version of the elusive man. We get to fight this guy who's been a pain in our ass the whole time. Even if you're Renegade, he's been a pain in your ass the whole time. We get to fight him, and then after we destroy him, and we get the Citadel up there, and we get the conduit working or whatnot, then we'll probably have a conversation with Harbinger. He'll actually come up as the voice of the Reapers and talk to us. We'll find out the true reason of the Reapers. We'll find out what all this has to do with Mass Effect energy, which is the theme of the game. Why would they not include that? We'll find out what it has to do with that. We'll find out what it has to do with dark energy. And then, like some people have said in other videos, we can get the epilogue we want. Because what we have now, I truly believe, is just a fake ending to get the game out the door. Because if they hadn't done this, the ending sequence which they wanted to do, which, I mean, they probably still are working on it at their offices, they just can't say anything. They can't release any information yet. But in doing so, they are severely hurting themselves. I mean, the game itself, I never want to give any game a 10 out of 10. Even though I'm a Mass Effect whore, and I love the thing, giving a game a 10 out of 10 means that it is absolutely perfect, and that there will never be anything throughout until the end of time, there will never be anything better ever created. And that's simply not true. We're always improving upon ideas. We're always making better stuff. Thus is the creative mind of mankind. So I'm going to give Mass Effect 3 a 9.9. That's what it is. It's about as good as you can get for today's age. They just didn't put the real ending on the game. And if they did, this is just sad, and it's an insult to the players. I truly believe that DLC will happen. we'll get to fight a true final boss, and we won't have Marauder Shields in his infamousness of him just laughing at us, pop, pop, pop. Complete insult to the players that was. We've had a boss fight in the past 2 games, and then the 3rd game, which is supposed to be the end of the series, the most epicness that there has ever been, and we just get a cutscene. That ain't right. That doesn't fill me with any form of joy. And but I think this DLC is coming, guys. I don't know what it'll be called. I don't know when it'll be released, but I do believe that they've been working on this. They just can't say anything to cover their corporate asses. They have to stay quiet about this stuff. And that's just hurting them because there's been so much rage. Our fandom for this series is just so amazing and so strong, and we drive the market on this stuff that we've actually scared all the stores that Mass Effect, after just 14 days in the stores, has dropped $20 in price. And that's not right at all. That game is fully worth the purchase price. It's just really, really bad writing, if it is indeed true. It's really, really bad writing in the last 10 minutes. And by that, I mean the very last decision at the very end where you choose the color of your ending. That's the only bad part of the game. Everything before that, even the conversation with the elusive man and stuff, and then you sit down and the conduit doesn't work, up until that elevator starts up, the game is phenomenal. It is a masterpiece of storytelling to me. And then you get to that little bit at the end, and it just slaps you in the face and says, we're running late. Here's the credits. Bye. It's just wrong. It's not right. So I think that DLC is coming. And I know I'm rambling now. I'm trying to wrap up my thoughts so I can finish this video. But, yeah, what I was going to say before is that that's coming to placate us and to get us to calm down. And then after we beat a true final boss, whether it is that concept art that I showed you in that book or if it's something else, we'll do that, and then we'll see a sequence that'll show a small epilogue for every single one of the characters and what they went off to do with their life. Now, this can be a video sequence, this can be a still image that's just rendered out, or it can just be straight dialogue like you did, like several games have done. BioWare's one from Dragon Age Origins, the ending little paragraph, it was something. It was nice. It gave us closure to the characters. And then they came out with the additional expansion pack at the end of that game. Or, I mean, you could even do something a little fancier where we just see still images like Bethesda did at the end of Fallout 3, following all the characters. And that was nice, and it gives you closure on all these characters. And yet, in this one, we don't get that. We're just told, hey, the mass relays are destroyed, and everything you've done for the past 5 years, and 99% of this game, every single decision you've ever made in a game completely about choice and consequence, every last thing that you've ever done, all the money you've spent, all the time you've invested, all the emotion, all the tears, all the laughter, every last thing you've done was for nothing. Everything you've done was for nothing. KZ Hudson said that he wanted to create an ending to the video game which would be unforgettable. I think he used the wrong word, because the ending he made right now, it's unforgivable. It's not unforgettable. It's horrible. Everything we did, you made completely useless. You slapped us in the face. We loved your game. We're epic fans. And you just betrayed us. That's what you did. And you think it's your artistic vision. Well, I think you need to get your eyes checked. But that's just my thoughts on this. Feel free to comment down below. Leave me your thoughts, whether they be positive or negative. And that ends this video. I hope you guys have a pleasant day and enjoy what you can out of Mass Effect 3.